Hey guys, Bump here, bringing you this exciting video about the War Within. I've had the privilege of getting some early access to some of the hero talents that is like a new feature in the next expansion. So in this video, we'll take a look at them, show exactly what they are, analyze them, discuss them, that kind of thing. There is another video released at the same time as this one with a interview with some developers. Well, got to take part as well. So also do have a look at that one, see what they say, what kind of what they answer our questions for, essentially. In the description there will be a link to the official blog post. Do head over there, read that, and leave your feedback as well. Let them know what you think about these new hero talents. Do you like them, dislike them, are you worried about anything, that kind of vibe, right? Anyway, so some background here. So hero talents is a new kind of talent system coming in the War Within the next expansion. And it's going to work slightly differently because it's shared between specs. So for the Death Knight, we have 3 of them coming in. So we have Sanguine, which is the one shared between Unholy and Blood. We have Deathbringer, which is Blood and Frost. And then we have Rider of the Apocalypse, which is Unholy and Frost. So if you play, for instance, Unholy, you get to choose, am I going to be a Sanguine Unholy or a Rider of the Apocalypse Unholy? So you get to choose one of them, and then within those trees, there's also a couple of choice nodes. However, important note is that you will actually equip all the nodes in the trees, and it's only the choice nodes that actually do give you some kind of toggle here. So you won't get as many permutations as you have in the classical trees, where you can kind of, there's millions of different ways you can spec into those. In these ones, you can only ever flip the choice nodes. All right, well, we have the Sanguine tree accessible to us. You know, I had it up on the screen here. Let's just go through it, talk about the talents and whether you like them, all that kind of thing. So, first of all, we have Vampiric Strike. So it says your Death Call and Death Strike have a 10% chance to make your next Heart Strike or Skirt Strike become Vampiric Strike. Vampiric Strike heals you for 3% of your maximum health and grants you Essence of the Blood Queen, increasing your haste by 1.5% up to 7.5% for 20 seconds. Alright, so this is kind of like the core aspect of this whole talent tree. We have Skirt Strike, and Hot Strike being turned into a new ability, which is called Vampiric Strike, and that heals you a little bit and gives you this nice haste buff. And then the rest of the talents will kind of revolve around this. Just as a quick glance, it says Death Call only, but ask the developers, they say it also includes Epidemic. At least by 90% chance, I think they said. They are looking for parity here between Death Call and Epidemic, so you don't end up in situations where you're kind of in an AoE situation and want to hit Death Call because it does something more than Epidemic, so I wouldn't worry about that. Quite nice with a haste buff. I generally like haste buffs. It makes the rotation quicker, more exciting, that kind of thing. But it also adds in another maintenance buff, which I think is the negative part of this, right? Unholy already has got quite a lot of buffs to juggle. If you look at Dragonflight, we have stuff like Icy Talents, Plaguebringer, we have Death Rot, we have Defile to some degree, that kind of thing. So loads and loads of buffs you need to maintain. And getting another one, I don't know. We'll see how it plays out. Anyway, once you pick that up, there is a choice to going in the middle, left or right. This only really matters during leveling, because at the end we're going to allocate points to everything, right? But let's start by having a look at the middle one. So the next talent is the Blood-Soaked Ground. So while you're within your Death and Decay, your physical damage taken is reduced by 5%. So a nice defensive gain there. And your chance to gain Vampiric Strike is increased by 5%. Now, I'm not too sure what I think about making Death and Decay, or standing in Death and Decay, a bigger part of your rotation, especially in single target. So in Dragonflight, Death and Decay is a huge thing in AoE. We use that all the time there, or Defile if we're specking to that. We also use it in single target, but currently only for Gargle. We get some haste by standing in it, so we use it when we have our cooldowns down to buff them up, otherwise we kind of ignore it. This would put more emphasis on using it in single target. We did ask the developers what they thought about this. I felt like I got the vibe that they understood the issue, especially for DPS DKs, and potentially had something to solve it. I would personally love to see some talent somewhere that means Deafening K follows you around. Lots of people have said it already. I think it's just a simple solution. So you spec into that. If you use Deafening K, it turns into a big aura around you instead of actually being something you put on the ground, which just solves all the issues, because if the tank moves out, right, it doesn't matter. You move out with them and just Deafening K stays with you. I don't know. In the current iteration, I would not like to use Deafening K in single target. So hopefully there will be some kind of workaround here. Right, next talent, we have Frenzied Bloodthirst. So Essence of the Blood Queen stacks 2 additional times and increases the damage of your Death Call and Death Strike by 5% per stack. So I think by default, reading up the initial one, so increase your haste by 1.5% up to 7.5%. That means it stacks 5 times. So with this Frenzied Bloodthirst, we then stack it 7 times. Which is quite a lot of times to stack it, to be honest. Not too sure about what kind of uptime we can expect. We have a look at the capstone talent. We kind of give you some insight into this. But yeah, not too much to say about that one. This is just going to be a throughput talent. Yeah, I don't know. No strong feelings one way or the other. Right, one step after, we have Incite Terror. This says Heart Strike and Skirt Strike extend the duration of Essence of the Blood Queen by 0.5 seconds. Vampiric Strike increases the extension by 100%. Right, so essentially means if you have the buff already and you hit Skirt Strike or Heart Strike, it will extend that buff slightly. And if you have Vampiric Strike, the extension is increased by 100%. Now, I did ask exactly how this buff worked, so a bit confused whether or not, like, if you initiate it, does it last for 20 seconds and it can only be increased using this talent, or how does it work? Well, they said that if you add a stack to Essence of the Blood Queen, it refreshes the duration, so it goes to 20 seconds. So it's not completely sure how Incite Terror will work with that. I think it's generally a bit unclear what they have in mind, what exactly will refresh the duration, what will increase it, that kind of thing. Not too sure. This definitely adds in like more of a feedback loop where it puts more emphasis on hitting Skirt Strike. I'll get to this later. But essentially, you know, Skirt Strike and Death Call, at least for Unholy, is, you know, being upgraded into, okay, these buttons are going to be even more important to press. And Incite Terror means that naked Skirt Striking gains some value. So I'm a bit worried. I did ask about this, if they were worried that we will see some degenerate gameplay where essentially we stop using our core rotational abilities, like, you know, Festing Strike, for instance. In Dragonfight already, Festing Strike is almost not worthwhile to press in single target. And if you put more emphasis on other spells, it's going to be even more difficult to fit it in. But they're very much aware of this. It's feedback they are actively monitoring. So as soon as we get access to this and can give it a go, it's something to think about. Like, will this make it, you know, not worthwhile to press Festing Strike? I don't know. It's a big question to ask, right? Anyway, down at the bottom, we have Gift of the Sun Lane, which is the capstone here. It says, while Vampiric Blood or Dark Transformation is active, you gain Gift of the Sun Lane. Gift of the Sun Lane increases the effectiveness of your Essence of the Blood Queen by 100% and replaces your Heart Strike and Skirt Strike with Vampiric Strike for a duration. So essentially, when Dark Transformation is active for Unholy, every single Skirt Strike you hit is going to be Vampiric Strike. This gives me the vibe that you're probably going to be spamming Skirt Strike when you have Dark Transformation up. I don't know. That feels like it. Because, well, I don't know, actually. We'll get to another talent that kind of implies that, but I read this as in, you know, if you press Dark Transformation, it's going to be much quicker to stack up your haste buff, and it's going to be 100% more 100% better. So it's going to go all the way up to 21% haste, I would think, which is quite exciting. That's a lot of haste. And then you will try to, during Dark Transformation, you would just hit Skirt Strike to refresh that. So I imagine the gameplay is you hit Dark Transformation, you spam Skirt Strike to stack up the buff, and once it's stacked up fully, you kind of just hit it to refresh it. We'll get to why that maybe isn't the case, but that's how I'll read this. I don't know, I'm not too big a fan of just spamming a single button. To be honest, in Dragonflight, I do love the Clawing Wounds build, which is just spamming Clone Shadows, but it's a worry I have, right? Are we going to have gameplay where we just ignore everything and just spam a single button when we hit another cooldown ability? I don't know. Anyway, so that's all the way down the middle in the tree. Let's have a look at the left side here. So we have a choice node here to the left, which is a utility one. So we can either pick newly turned, so raise ally, revives players at full health, and grants you an absorption shield equal to 20% of your maximum health, or we can pick Vampiric Speed. Death's Advance and Wraithwalk movement speed bonus are increased by 10%. Activating Death's Advance or Wraithwalk increases 4 nearby allies' movement speed by 20% for 5 seconds. Alright, so some nice utility nodes here. Newly turned, I think that's interesting. I need to double check here. So, raise ally, how much HP does people actually gain when you use that ability? Sorry, I just need to refresh my memory. There we go. So 60% health. So going to 100% health is pretty good. In a raiding environment, I would definitely like to have this. Because you would end up being, okay, the Death Knight rests, and the player that comes up, it's like already max health, much lower risk of just immediately dying, which is really good. Vampiric Speed, also a fan of this one, so making us a bit more speedy, but also increasing the speed of others. I can't help to think immediately that, oh, well, you know, if we're going to increase other speed, they're just going to run away from us even faster than they already are. It's nice though, you know, people like going fast and being able to provide that as a bit of a, like, you know, a raid buff. It's just the party though, but yeah, I like it. You know, I can't complain much about these. I like the added benefit. Also, 20% of your maximum health as a shield when you do use Raise Dead. I just like the fact that they add some, you know, benefit using that ability, because often it's like, okay, I have to spend Runic Power, which I would have otherwise used to cast Deathcore and deal damage to rest one of my teammates, right? So adding some kind of, you know, benefit to that is going to make it feel better to use it. All right, one step down, we have Infliction of Sorrow. And now this is a spicy one here. So when Vampiric Strike damages an enemy affected by Blood Plague or Virulent Plague, it consumes the disease, dealing 200% of the remaining damage. While Gift of the Sunlight is active, Vampiric Strike no longer consumes your disease, and instead extends the duration of your disease by 3 seconds, and deals 20% of the remaining damage to the enemy. Alright, so we have some disease interactivity here, which is quite interesting, but also with quite a lot of implications. So, essentially, when you hit Vampiric Strike, you're just going to take your Virulent Plague, remove that, and then deal 200% of that remaining damage immediately. Now, I think that's loads of damage, right? Let's have a look. So if we look at... Oh, it doesn't track like that. I want to have a look at exactly how much one cast of Outbreak does, because the dot itself doesn't do that much damage on its own. Like, it's nearly not worthwhile to use it as a single button. But if you just get that all damage instantly and for free, it ends up being quite a good thing to press. The negative aspect here is that we'll end up pressing Outbreak loads, I think. So whenever you get a Vampiric Strike proc, you're going to have to hit Skirt Strike, and then you're going to go back and you're going to reapply your dot, right? So it's going to add loads of Outbreak uses in an encounter. I can't say I'm not that big of a fan of that. Like, Outbreak already isn't like the most fun button to press, and having to use it like loads is not what I would say is that fun. Right, so just as a comparison here, so I'm looking at the actual damage. So Virulent Plague, over its duration, deals roughly twice that of a Clawing Shadows-ish. So if we apply Outbreak, right, and then you hit Clawing Shadows, or you hit the Vampiric Strike, right, that's going to be like 5 times as much damage as a normal Skirt Strike, for instance, right? It's going to be a huge amount of damage. That's going to obviously feel good, especially when you have Virulent Plague already. I can see scenarios, though, where you get the proc of Vampiric Strike, and then, you know, your dot may be halfway, but it's worthwhile to actually reapply your dot, consume it, and then apply it again. You see what I mean, right? Because you want to get that full value. It's so much damage. Yeah, I'm a bit hesitant about this. I'm not too sure if it's going to end up being fun and exciting gameplay. I do like that they want to emphasize our diseases more, but I'm not sure if this is the answer. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to play around with it, but I think it might end up just being loads and loads of outbreak pressing, which not too big a fan. Furthermore, we have when you have Gift of Sanguine, so that was the one that triggered with your Dark Transformation. You get 20% of the remaining damage whenever you press Vampiric Strike. I think this is rather odd. I get that it can't work as the initial effect, because during Dark Transformation, you would literally do Outbreak, Skirt Strike, Outbreak, Skirt Strike, Outbreak, Skirt Strike, Outbreak, Skirt Strike, right? That doesn't sound fun. But in the same way, when Dark Transformation is active, suddenly Vampiric Strike ends up being less of a fun button to press because it doesn't deal nearly as much damage. I don't know. It's hard to say because we don't. I assume that we have the same talents as in Dragonflight, and that is probably not going to be the case. So there might be some interaction there we need to think about. But this is just tricky. I'm not too sure how it's going to play out. I think we'll have to see. But I'm excited, as I said, that diseases are coming back as an interactive part of a kit. But I'm not too sure about just this specific talent here. Anyway, we have another talent, Visceral Regeneration. So you have your Heart Strike and Skirt Strike have a 3% per stack of Essence of the Blood Queen to refund a rune. Vampiric Strike doubles the chance to refund a rune. So now, let's have a look at it. What's the probability here? Well, we assume that we could go to 7 stacks, which means that that's a 21% chance. But once you use Dark Transformation, that ends up being like a 42% chance. So this means that you can essentially just spam Skirt Strike, I think, and never run out of runes. I'm not too sure if that's going to be the gameplay, but that's kind of how it feels like here. So, I don't know. It's nice to inject some resources. I'm not sure if we're going to need it in next expansion. Dragonflight we don't. But, you know, they might change things around. I don't know. I think this further loops back into spamming a single button during Dark Transformation. And I think they're probably going to have to do something to specifically make us not do that. But we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, not too sure. It's always a bit tricky when you haven't played around with it and kind of figured out, okay, how does everything synergize? But my current vibe of that is how it's going to play out. So we'll see. Anyway, let's move on to the right side of the tree. We've got 3 more talent spots. Actually, 5 more talents because there's 2 choice nodes here. Anyway, so we have a choice node here. We have Vampiric Aura. So your leech is increased by 3%. While Lichborn is active, the leech amount is increased by 100% and affects 4 nearby allies. If you guys played in Legion, I think the Blood DK artifact weapon used to give leech to your teammates and it used to be really good. This is nice. Unholy DK, or DK in general, lacks like this party utility you get in Mythic Plus, and getting some more of that I think is really nice to see. Using Lichborn to kind of help your party heal up, I love it. Means that, you know, leech. So what is the how much leech do we actually get from Lichborn? I need to double check here. So how much will it actually provide? So we get 10% from Lichborn, and then we get another 3% from the Vampiric Aura. So that's 13. And then we increase that to 26, sorry. And you give it to 4 nearby allies. I think 26% leech is pretty good. The healer's going to love it, and everyone's going to, you know, heal up based on the damage they do. So I think this is going to be like a strong defensive CD for your party. Love to see it, actually. We have the alternative, which is Bloody Fortitude. So Icebound Fortitude reduces all damage you take by up to an additional 30% based on your missing health. And killing enemies that grant honor or experience reduces the cooldown of Icebound Fortitude by 3 seconds. This kind of like just beefs up your Icebound Fortitude. To be honest, I'm not too sure how much we need more DPS or need more damage reduction with Icebound Fortitude active. Like, you don't generally die when you actually do press that cooldown. It's nice to beat it up, but this is obviously like for solo content, because killing enemies that grant honor or experience kind of only happens in open world. So, not sure. You can gain benefit from it with Plus, but you need to actually do the killing blow, which means that these kind of talents generally see little value. I'm not too sure how powerful that is. It isn't as exciting as the other one. I'm really liking the Vampiric Aura here. So anyway, the next talent, we have the Blood is Life. So Vampiric Strike has a chance to summon a Blood Beast to attack your enemy for 10 seconds. Each time the Blood Beast attacks, it stores a portion of the damage dealt, and when the Blood Beast dies, it explodes, dealing 50% of the damage accumulated to nearby enemies and healing the Death Knight for the same amount. Alright, well, not too much to say about this one, honestly. It just means that Vampiric Strike adds a little bit more benefit. It does emphasize pressing Skirt Strike more when Dark Transformation is active, which I'm a little bit about. I don't know. Fun thematically, heals a little bit, you know. Looks good. Not too much to say about that one, to be honest. Alright, the final choice node. We have two options there. So Sanguine Send. So Death Call and Death Strike have a 15% chance to trigger Vampiric Strike when damage enemies below 35% health, and it is guaranteed to critically strike. Ooh. This is quite an interesting one. So gives you a little bit more of an execute, which we like. Having execute is really valuable in raids, because the last 35% of the boss is generally the most difficult. Guaranteed to critical strike is interesting. It means that crit will be devalued as a stat for us, because whenever something is guaranteed to crit, well, it doesn't matter how much crit you have, it's not going to add anything. So it's going to have an impact on our stats priority. I generally like it. I like to have more execute. It's a good attribute to have as a DPS, so I like that one. We have the alternative with Pact of Sanguine. So you store 50% of all shadow damage dealt into your Blood Beast to explode for additional damage when it expires. I think this is a bit vague. So does it explode with all that 50%? Or is it a portion of it? I'm not too sure. This is going to end up being quite a big explosion, I think. Because if you do get a Blood Beast when you have all your cooldowns running. Like imagine we have Gargle in the next expansion as well. You get a Blood Beast when Gargle's out. It stores up all that magic damage and explodes towards the end to really ramp it up. Sounds pretty exciting. I'm not too big of a fan that it ends up being a bit of an RNG thing, because you need to proc the Blood Beast at the right spot. But maybe we have so many out anyway that it doesn't matter. I don't know. Like if you end up having Dark Transformation out and then you immediately just summon lots of Blood Beasts, no problem at all. I actually don't know if you can have multiple either. Who knows? Lots of questions there, which I'm not too sure about. And we didn't get to ask all of them to the devs either. But yeah, that's a bit tricky one. Might be like, oh, it's a bit of fun flavor. Or it might be, this is going to be terrible to play around, because we need to actually monitor proc and use it just when we have the cooldowns. Or we need to use our cooldowns around Blood Beast, that kind of thing. So there's two directions here. I'm not too sure which one is going to be. Alright, well, that's all your talents. I think generally I'm excited about this. It feels like this is going to be like an additional layer on top of our already existing talents and identity. It won't change our rotation that much. We'll bring in a little bit different priority. We'll bring in some utility choice. There's only one DPS choice here, so that's not going to be too big of an impact. The primary impact will be that we get some extra utility, our buttons act slightly differently, and our rotation might change slightly as well. That's the kind of vibe. Again, in the description, there is a link to the official blog post. Do go there, leave your feedback. You can also just comment down on my video. I'm not sure if the devs are going to read that, but you know, you might as well express your views if you want to. Upvote, downvote, consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.